All right, today we are going to talk about surface area of spheres. You just got done talking about volume of spheres, so we are going to move on to what surface area looks like in a sphere. First things first is we need to write down the formula, the conjecture for surface area for a sphere. The surface area of a sphere, we are going to write it as 4 times pi r squared. Okay, so notice that it's very identical to just the area of a circle, but it's timesing it by 4. Okay, so pi r squared is the area formula for a circle, and surface area of a sphere is just 4 times that. And here it is again. Okay, we're just going to go through a couple problems using the surface area, and then we will go through a couple more challenging ones when we need to find a surface area and volume. So here it's asking for surface area, so I always write down the formula that I'm using first, then I plug in what I know. Okay, well, I know that the radius of this sphere is 9, so I plug 9 in. Then I do some basic multiplication. 9 squared, 9 times 9 is 81, and then I can multiply 4 times 81. I get 324 pi. And we have centimeters squared because we're dealing with surface area. This would be an exact answer. Okay, leaving it in terms of pi, that is the exact surface area that for this sphere. Now, if it was asking for an approximate value, okay, we'd get about 1,017.88 centimeters squared. Okay, so both are technically correct. You just have to pay attention to what the problem is asking. Next, same idea. Okay, always write down the formula that you're working with first. Okay, 4 pi r squared. I know my radius is 12 in this case. Okay, so I take 12 squared, which is 144, and then I can multiply 144 times 4. I get 576 pi centimeters squared. And then if they're asking for it rounded, 1,809.56 centimeters squared. So double check in your calculator that you're able to get both answers so that you know how to do both. Right, so in this problem, we are finding the surface area and the volume of this figure. Okay, since we just got off of surface area, I'm going to do surface area first over here. Okay, and first you should always write down the formulas that you are using. Okay, so first things first is I'm going to write down the surface area of a sphere because I notice I have a hemisphere going on up here, and then I have the other portion down here, so that gives me one full sphere. So I am going to have 4 pi r squared. Okay, and then we have the cylinder. Now you have to think back to the surface area of a cylinder, and that was from chapter 8, I believe. And for the surface area of a cylinder, okay, we had the top and the bottom. We had 2 pi r squared because we had 2 circles, the top and the bottom. And then we had the inside part, which was 2 pi r times the height. Okay, we do not need to include the top and the bottom of our cylinder because those are not on the outside of our figure. surface area only deals with the outside portion of a figure, okay, not what's on the inside. And those circles would technically be on the inside because they're covered by the hemispheres. Okay, so I only need 2 pi r h. Okay, so this is the formula I'm using for the surface area of this figure. Okay, so now I can plug in what I know. Okay, I know the radius of my hemispheres is 3. So I'm going to put 3 in for r. And then my radius for my cylinder is also 3. And my height of my cylinder is 15. Okay, so next we're just going to use some algebra, some basic solving here. Okay, I am going to figure out what 3 squared is, which is 9. I'm going to multiply my 3 times 15 and get 45. Okay, so I'm just doing some multiplying. Okay, you could probably do some of this all in one line. 4 times 9, we get 36 pi. And then 45 times 2, we get 90 pi. Now, I can add together 36 pi plus 90 pi because they both have a pi on them. So I actually get 126 pi centimeters squared for my surface area for this one. Right? If I wanted to find an approximate value, 395.84 approximately. Okay, so that was just for the surface area. Okay, volume, we'll do volume over here. Okay, so volume of a sphere, okay, because I'm going to combine the 2 hemispheres together to get me my sphere. Okay, so volume would be 4/3 pi r cubed. Then we also have our cylinder. And if you remember, our cylinder volume, okay, is just like a prism. We take the area of the base and times it by the height. So pi r squared times the height, because the base is a circle. Okay, so now I plug in what I know. Okay, again, I know my radius of my sphere is 3, so I have 3 cubed. And then my radius of my cylinder is also 3, so I have 3 squared. And my height is 15. Okay, so notice how my formulas are different from surface area to volume. Okay, so here I have 4/3 pi and then 27, because 3 times 3 times 3 would give me 27, plus pi 3 squared is 9 times by 15. Again, some of you will be able to combine some of these lines together. Okay, so I'm going to put 4/3 times 27 into my calculator, and I get 36 pi for this first part. And then I'm going to multiply 9 times 15, and I get 135 pi. Then I'm going to add together 35 and 36 because they both have a pi. So I get 171 pi centimeters cubed because we are dealing with volume. If you wanted to do the approximately 537.21 centimeters cubed. Okay, so I've been saying this all along, but it's so important to write down your formulas, especially when you're dealing with problems like this. Okay, look at the work on my screen right now. Okay, there is so much work. Okay, please keep it neat and organized. Always start with the formulas. Okay, keep your formula sheets close by as you're doing these. All right, last but not least, I am going to go through and find the surface area of this figure here. Okay, so as I'm going through this, try to figure out the formulas first on your own, and then check with me. So if you need to pause the video for a second and try to figure out what the formulas would be by yourself, right? Please take the time to do that, right? Because this is practice for you. So here, I notice I have a hemisphere and I have a cylinder. Okay, so very similar to the last one, but I just don't have that extra hemisphere on the bottom. Okay, so that is going to change things a little bit. So thinking of the surface area of the hemisphere, okay, I want to take half of my 4 pi r squared. Right, and then I'm thinking surface area of the cylinder. Okay, well, I actually have one of those circles, the bottom, is present now. Notice that it is like shown on the outside. So I have to include that, which I didn't have to include before because I had the extra hemisphere on the bottom. So I actually have one of those pi r squareds. But then I also have this chunk here, okay, the middle chunk of the cylinder. Okay, so I have 2 pi r times h. Okay, so that would be the formula that I use to find the surface area of this figure. Okay, so next we plug in what we know. 4 pi, my radius is 5. Radius is 5 all around. And my height of my cylinder is 2. Oof, long one. Should have another set of parentheses here. Okay, so now I'm going to do some multiplying. Okay, 1/2, I can do 1/2 times 4 times 25. So I get 50 pi there. So I can do 1/2, check it in your calculator, times 4 times 5 squared, which is 25. Okay, then I can do 5 squared, which is 25 pi. Then I can do 2 times 5 times 2. So I get another 20 pi at the end there. Okay, so when I add together 50 plus 25 plus 20, I get a surface area of 95 pi feet squared. Okay, so the formulas are so important in this. I am going to erase my work because I kind of ran out of room here, and I want to have room to do the volume because volume is going to kind of take up some space. So pause the video if you need to finish writing things down. All right, we're also going to find the volume. So if you want to try and figure out the formula, pause the video for a second. Okay, so we have the volume of a hemisphere. Okay, well, that would just be half. So we'd have half of 4/3 pi r cubed plus the volume of a cylinder. Okay, because remember, volume is just space, so we don't have to really tweak it at all. Okay, so volume of a cylinder, pi r squared times the height. Area of the base times the height. Okay, so we plug in what we know. Radius is 3 plus pi, or radius is 5. I don't know why I said 3. I was thinking 3 squared is 5 squared, and then the height is 2. Okay, and then we can do some just math here. You can multiply 1/2 times 4/3 times 5 to the 3rd power. So I'm going to plug all that into my calculator as is. Hopefully it gives me a decent number. It gives me a decimal, which is fine. We'll use the decimal. I don't normally like decimals, but it is what it is. Pi plus 5 squared times 2 would be 50 pi. Okay, so we're going to add those two together. So we get about 133.33 pi feet cubed. Okay, and if I want to actually find a rounded answer, which might be better because we're kind of dealing with decimals here, it'd be approximately 418 point, let's say 88 feet cubed. There we go. Okay, so either answer is fine. It's just we got end up with a decimal because the 4/3 there. All right, so again, check your work. Okay, make sure that the formulas make sense with you. They match up with what I have. If you have questions, please ask.